Yesterday, I finished reading Murakami's finest work and my introduction to this author, Kafka on the Shore. And it took me 4 months, mainly because of my exams were there in this duration. But nonetheless, even after taking breaks in between, it never felt old, and I was hooked to the story throughout. Now, sometimes it drags on, like unnecessarily, but that's fine, okay? It's his style, and we have to appreciate it. So, the story basically follows, well, it branches into two parts, okay? First, we follow a 15-year-old boy named Kafka and an old man named Nakata. They are in the same town, but their stories are completely different from each other. So the Kafka story follows as we get introduced to him as a strongest 15-year-old boy by a boy named Crow. Later is shown that it's just his alter ego. One day just decide to leave his father's house and takes away some money so that he can survive basically. And he lives off in a bus for a very far off unknown town called Takamatsu. And throughout the journey, he meets various people, mainly his mother and sister. So the Nakata story follows as he is a demented, not demented actually. He's just a he's a slow old man. He also meets some questionable people like very renowned name like Colonel Sanders and Johnny Walker. I don't know what's their significance in the story, but they just act like Chekhov's gun. And this reference is also explained in the book. Colonel Sanders says this Chekhov's gun. So as we follow, their stories converges at one point, and it all happens because of Kafka's mother, Miss Psyche. To talk about the positive things, it's very captivating story. Also, on certain parts, such as like cooking food and those trivial stuff, I was like, why is he dragging so much? And then I read online, and I got to know that it's his writing style. We gotta appreciate it, right? Like at first, I was just like, oh, story, but then I began appreciating those small things. So that's a very positive. For some people, it might be negative. I mean, look at the size of this book. It's very fat, mainly because of those trivial stuff. Although in this book, it's very less compared to what I heard of his other works. But yeah, that aside, some supernatural elements and like very meta. A lot of plot points are very meta in this. Like I mentioned, Chekhov's gun. Like, he didn't need to mention it, but yeah, he did. Well, there are no negative as such, except you can say that at the end, story is very not very happy, but very kind of predictable ending. Other than that, for some people, okay, not everyone is gonna say this, but for some people, it might be little very questionable taboo stuff happen in this, right? I'm not gonna say that out loud. You understand, right? It's his sister, his mother. Some questionable stuff happen with them, with Kafka in the forefront. So yeah, so that might be disturbing for some people. I was not used to reading such things. So this was my first time experience of such things. Now, overall rating, I will give this solid 4.5 out of 5. The only negatives are dragging on.